What is going on, everybody? Welcome back here to another installment of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about everything from movies, movie news, video games, comic books. Speaking of video games, it was E3 today. Did any of you guys watch E3? I watched like a slight bit of it, and it wasn't very good. Like,
I did not.
they had this weird, like, not to just like shit on something right out the gate here before I even get through the intro, but I was watching like a little bit of it, and I think it was called like it was like a wholesome game segment, and like all the games seemed like. Dude, there was one that was literally like an LA simulator. It was like the weird, like literally like just like you're a person in LA, and like they show you going to like a club, and like it's just the weirdest thing. Twitter was called Twibber on it. I don't even know what it was called, but all the games were like, I don't know, they just weren't very good looking. And then but E3 is like going on all weekend, and they got like all the big companies are on like different days, which I don't know if it's always been like that, but
Yeah, aren't most of the major developers and systems, aren't they doing them like later in the week?
well, yeah, it seems like there was really no major like developers or anything today from what I remember. But I only watched like the first like hour of it, and then I looked up the schedule, and it seemed like, these dates aren't exactly right, but it was like a bunch of like little things, and then Sony, and then that was like the only big one. Then on the next day it was a bunch of things, and then Xbox, and then on the other day it was Nintendo and a bunch of other little things.
So
like,
they each have their own like.
yeah, they separated it all out. Like all the big three have their like own days on there, which I don't remember them ever doing it that way. But maybe they have, and I'm just. It seems like it's been stretched out longer than normal because I think it's like a
Yeah,
4-day event this year.
Yeah, I always thought I thought the weekend like was like kind of almost like a preview to the actual event, and then you got into the nuts and bolts stuff on the week, or like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping there's some better stuff though than there was in this wholesome. Not the. I don't want to shit on the because I know these people put a lot of. They're just. I'm not the target demographic for these games. There was no big swords or guns. There was no one being blown up. These were all like, happy fun go, like, kid looking kind of fun games, and it's just that's not what I'm trying to do. Like,
sounds wholesome.
I will give them that they were in the category of wholesome titles or whatever, and sure, I'll give them that. They looked wholesome, but nevertheless, I was even thinking that if there was like some weird like DMCA thing that with the people like streaming the E3 event, but I thought it'd be like cool if we did stream it. But then I saw all that like DMCA issues, and I was like, well, that kind of throws that out the window, unfortunately. Right. But that would be kind of.
Is it because they use like? Is it because they use like copyrighted music and stuff during it?
Yeah. So it's like if you didn't get like, I think there was a way you could go and like become a partner with them. Like you could submit to like have essentially just not get any DMCAs, but like you're allowed to stream it supposedly, but you're just at the risk of whomever out there is going to DMCA your content.
Right.
Like if whether it's music or it's just the trailer, and that the people who made that trailer don't want it, being repurposed in that way. So it just seems like honestly kind of a shitty thing for like full-time streamers, because especially gaming ones, because it's like they would obviously sit there and stream the event and then sit there with their community and talk about it. But at the risk of, practically the entire thing being DMCA'd and your account being banned, it's like they have to sacrifice covering a gaming convention on their stream because they can't stream that day then. Right. If they want to watch the event themselves, they can't. Yeah, they can't do that. They have to like the next day go and like just watch all the trailers. It's just kind of shitty.
Inconvenient.
Yeah, it's a little inconvenient, And the DMCA is annoying with the music stuff anymore anyway.
Oh god, yeah.
Like it's like, come on, man. Like I don't know how. It's a symbiotic relationship if someone's sitting there listening to your music. Like, you know what I mean? Like no one's coming to like watch our show to listen to Linkin Park.
No.
You know what I mean? Like if we were streaming playing games and Linkin Park was on, or whomever, all that's gonna do is give more exposure to the artist, and like people in the chat or whatever who be like, well, who is this? This is a great song, and then they'll go and search it and find it and buy it themselves.
Sure.
Like,
hasn't music's always had to stick up their butt about stuff. Like music is like they're the industry that back in the day was like, oh, Napster's killing us. and they got rid of Napster, and they spent all that time and money going after Napster, and everybody just moved somewhere else to, get
LimeWire,
music.
Kazaa.
Exactly,
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly, and now
Firefly.
they're at the point where they did what they had to do to compete, which is what they should have been focused on all along, which is dropping the price of music to something that's more reasonable, a 99-cent buy for a song, and, making money up in live shows. And now I know that they're hurting because of the pandemic and everything, but they just always seem to really not, instead of actually trying to be innovative and figure out ways to drive people to actually pay for their stuff, they just, crap on everybody else and like try and ruin everybody else's thing. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I understand as creators they deserve money and they deserve to be compensated, but I also think that there's quite a bit of difference between you using a 10-second or even a minute clip of a song to create a cool intro versus you asking people to pay 99 cents to watch you stream an entire album or something. It's just
Right.
there's a difference. That's a different animal, and they just
Yeah.
don't seem to get that.
The DMCA laws are just outdated and not fit for our current times, man.
No.
Like, in all
Yeah,
honesty,
that's yeah.
it's just is what it is. Because like, it's pretty much just like you said, and like I was saying earlier, like, no one's coming like, if I was listening to music, no one's coming here to listen to that music. That's just a byproduct of, like, the community, like, and
Yeah.
all it would do is give exposure to the actual artist, like,
Right.
it's just kind of
Exactly, it
redundant,
would
like
I can't remember how many songs back before Twitch, got all wrapped up with them and stuff. I can't remember how many songs I'd like never would have heard of if I hadn't been watching a streamer who just was playing like music they like. I'd hear something, I'd be like, "Oh, that's sweet. Where's it's at?" And I'd go check out the band and like, get their album or whatever. And like, yeah, it was a way to
yeah.
find new music. But
Yeah.
It's essentially like free marketing, in
It
all
really is.
honesty, like
definitely. Like, what do they think the radio was doing for the past, 80
yeah.
years? Do they
Yeah,
think
nobody's paying
radio
for that.
stations across the country were like, we're charging you and we're going to pay these artists for their music? No, that was
Yeah. Would be
It's a good
different
point.
if, like, someone was like, no big time streamer is profiting off the music that they're playing. They're like, they've already built their community
yeah.
and the music's just playing.
It's just
Yeah,
supplementing
yeah,
it.
it's just it's dumb. But like, to
Well, and
that
like you
point,
said,
what were you saying?
even small streamers, they're not driving content to their
Oh
thing
yeah.
because of the music they're playing.
Right, exactly. You can apparently buy, like, because you brought up radios, not to go on this tangent about DMCA right off the bat, but there's apparently this, like, commercial license that, like, you can buy, but it's like 100 some odd $1,000, and then you can, like, play licensed material on your
Oh, is that
thing.
it?
Mm.
100
Yeah,
and something.
it's like,
100,000.
okay,
Yeah, nice, cheap.
You guys
Yeah,
want to like
great.
throw in?
yeah, yeah, let's do that. Like, it's a bit outrageous, but nevertheless, let's get to the topics at hand here. But first, obviously, we're kicking off season 2 of H&U. And now all that really
Woo!
means is nothing super crazy or exciting. But we didn't even talk about this 2 weeks ago because we took a week off here, not because of season 2 or anything, really, just by virtue of real life issues. Nothing bad, just couldn't do anything. But we hit last week it was our 52nd show. We do a weekly show. So that was officially 1 year's worth of shows. So
Yep.
we're just cataloging each year as a season. If you wanted to know if we ever brought up season 2 of H&U and what that meant. That's really it. It's just each year. So from now on, it's going to be this is the kickoff of season 2 of H&U, which has a nice little ring to it.
It does.
But so yeah, we're here. We're back in black. Other than John didn't get that memo here.
I'm
But
colorblind. Can I say I'm colorblind?
right. Yeah. No, we did kind of. It was happenstance that Rick came over here in the studio, and we were both wearing these black shirts, and we're just like, we could just call this Back in Black season 2,
Right.
H&U Back in Black.
Back in black.
Yeah, but
Baby.
nevertheless, and then I'm probably, which you would have already seen, if I do get to it, I'm probably going to change the color of the intro to black just to suit that. Switch it up, spice it up. There's these dull ass colors. It was gray for a year, now it'll be black for a year.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's good to be back either way. Like I said, we took a week off, so we're here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Unfortunately, with Loki being on Wednesdays now, we're gonna have to figure something out for our like weekly reviews because by the time we talk about it on the show like we normally would, that comes up on Monday. But then 2 days later, the new episode of Loki's out, so no one's gonna care about it at that point. So we're gonna have to do like a special, just Wednesday or Thursday review and try to get it up and talk about it when it's a little bit more relevant. But we're gonna talk about Loki nevertheless because I want to, damn it, it's a good show. And then Bad Batch, and we got some Warner Brothers and Warner Bros. Discovery news, rather. There's a couple of little things, but then, like, to kind of kick off season 2 here, we are going to go through and give our top 5 for our like most anticipated just things in entertainment for the remainder of 2021. So I kind of made a list of particularly there's just movies. John has a couple of other things there. I think Rick, you focused on movies too, right?
Yeah, but I've got some shows too. I mean,
Yeah. So
You
we're gonna talk about that. Do that top 5. There's gonna be I got quite a few honorable mentions though as well. I actually, as far as movies go, I was quite surprised to see that there's actually 16 coming out just in 2021 from now until 2021 that I do want to see, which I was kind of shocked.
2022.
Hmm?
You said now until 2021.
Yeah, to the like until
to
the end of
20 okay,
2021.
got it,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. It's like if I were to include 2022, it'd be a whole other beast. But we'll do a most anticipated 2022 though at the end of the year. But
True.
nevertheless, do not forget, guys, we're going to get into these topics, but don't forget first, you can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. And then usually we have our figure reviews and everything. They go up every Wednesday. Now, the last one I did was, again, like 2 weeks ago at this point, but it was the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian, which is a super cool figure. He's actually still sitting here down beside me as well. I'm going to pull him up. He's right here. Got this boy right here. He's just still flying. He's flying right now.
Doing his thing, yeah.
Doing his thing. He's giving
Saluting.
me all the salute. So we did that. That's up on the channel right now. Those normally go up every Wednesday. And then again, every Friday, we do our live streams, usually. Sans this past week and everything. But we'll be getting back into the regular schedule in time, like from now on. So we are all good on that front. So let's get into this first topic. And the first one we're going to talk about is there's been a little bit of like, I don't know, a lot of questions ever since AT&T sold off Warner Brothers, and then they, Discovery ended up buying them. So now they announced it's going to be Warner Bros. Discovery, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the names I kind of throw out there that they could possibly do. It's not as good as what I wanted it to be, which was Discovery Bros. Because that's just good. Rick, did you throw that out?
I think I did, yeah.
I think you may have just like when we were talking about it, you spit that out. I was just like, that's
Discovery
the name.
Bros.
Discovery Bros is the name, but unfortunately, it's not the name. But nevertheless, there's an article that came out about just kind of what their actual plans are going to be going forward. So this is a huge article. There's a couple things that I'm going to kind of focus on in it, but this was in the LA Times. John, did you go through and actually read through a lot of this article? Or did you just kind of skim through it?
I think I read through most. I think I sent it earlier in the week, so I've kind of forgotten where. But yeah, I think I read through all of it.
Yeah, because they go on, they talk about kind of just what this, their new plans going forward essentially are going to be, and a lot of it's about like the movies, because we know Warner Brothers announced, during the pandemic and everything for this whole year, they're going day and date with the movies. So they address that and what their kind of plans are going forward. Then not too long ago, they also announced, like when they first, I think they first announced this when they first started talking about HBO Max. But I think it was Walter Amato who said that they were trying to make like 5, did DC, Walter Amato, say they were trying to make like 10 movies a year and then 5 would be for HBO Max and 5 for theaters?
I thought he said something like 10 projects a year, not necessarily movies. Like that was a combination of but like 3 to 4 movies, I think, and then I always got the impression like a movie every quarter, and then also a shows and series or direct to streaming movies as well.
Right. So then
they filled out the other half of that.
And they go through and they address that like down in here too. They have like a weird thing here. They say like roughly 20 movies that Warner Brothers usually makes. They're going to put like 10 to 12 on HBO Max and the other 10 to 12 on in just a normal theatrical run. If you can do math, they're kind of talking about 24, so I don't know why they said roughly 20 and not just half. If you're gonna say roughly 20, there's just say you're gonna do half on HBO Max and half on theatrical. I don't know why they wrote it that way, but talk about that. And then there were rumblings way back in the day here, it seems at this point, but back in the day, Joss Whedon was developing a Batgirl movie, and that kind of got canned. Chris McKay was developing a Nightwing movie, and then that got canned. But then they came back just here recently and announced that they are going to be proceeding with that, not the Joss Whedon Batgirl from what we know, but they might be using that script. But Batgirl's back on the table. But then they also announced recently that they're going to be doing a Blue Beetle movie, but they didn't really announce whether it was going to be on Disney Plus, or not Disney Plus, but HBO Max or in theaters. But this article goes in, it kind of goes on to say that Batgirl and Blue Beetle are, at least for now, aimed at HBO Max releases as opposed to theatrical releases, which I only find that kind of odd for the Blue Beetle. I think Batgirl would be like good for that budgetarily, because in the article they say that anything on the HBO Max side of things, they're only looking to spend like sub 65 million on. But Blue Beetle being as CG heavy as it would presumably be, because his suit's pretty much like a Tony Stark nanotech Iron Man suit, it could be done for 65, but it's just going to be a much,
well, it's set up there, it's smaller, a mid-budget movie for Batgirl and Blue Beetle. So yeah, it's not like a big budget or anything like that, but they could pull it off if they really tried, I feel like.
It's possible, but I just feel like with I think it'd be fine for Batgirl.
Yeah,
she's a boots on the ground character.
You may sacrifice quality in terms of like the CG and all that sort of stuff when it comes to.
You could do the CG good for the one like Blue Beetle himself. Yeah. My concern would be how small the world would end up feeling, because the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle character is like a galactic character as far as the lore goes. Like, there's other beetles out in the universe. There's Red Beetle and there's Green Beetle, and there are aliens and like
the Beetles.
It's true. But it's, if you're gonna make it for 65 million, it just, in my mind, it makes it feel like it's gonna inevitably feel like a smaller kind of movie when it has the potential of being this really big,
something like Guardians of the Galaxy sized. Like,
yes, like, but
well, and that's work. But and that's the thing that really, like, with both of these films, like, what is DC doing? Are these standalone things that are only going to exist in their own world? And if so, then what's the goal of Blue Beetle? Is it just to tell a good, like, one-off story with this character and then not revisit it if the movie does really well and like their streaming numbers for it are huge? Because I imagine, like you said, at a budget of 65 million, you're going to have a story of a young kid who finds this magical, for lack of, I mean, this is technologically advanced, this alien artifact that gives him superpowers, and find him a coming of age story, kind of, it's the Spider-Man story, but different tech, different
Shazam.
Shazam, yeah, it's different tech, different powers, different setting, but it's essentially that coming of age story. And so you're gonna have this small story, and so most of it's going to be him dealing with this, and then you're going to have 1, 2, maybe if you push the budget, 3 big action pieces throughout the movie. One when he first finds it, maybe a training type session where he's using it, and then a big fight at the end. Maybe there's a small little interlude when he's learning to use it, where he stops some small crimes or something, and then a big battle at the end. But it's all going to take place on Earth, within his community, within his setting, and then maybe you start to expand the mythos in a sequel, or you expand the mythos in whatever other projects DC is going to tie into these, if DC is going to tie projects into these. But if these are all, and that's the same with like Batgirl, are they going to, this Batgirl movie that comes out, are they going to try and tie it to the Matt Reeves universe at all? Is it going to just be a completely standalone Batgirl universe? And if so, like, how are they going to present that to the audience and make sure the audience is understands that these things stand separately from. I mean, and maybe that's Flashpoint. Maybe Flashpoint next year is going to be because they sure seem to be banking on the multiverse concept with Flashpoint, and so maybe that they're expecting that to just be through the roof successful, and everybody will understand that these things are just their own things for the time being. I don't know.
Yeah, and they also have like I like their idea of doing multiverse and in a way because I mean Joker proved they can do it. They can make these one-off movies that don't connect to anything and make $1 billion. So like it's and just with the especially for DC the way they managed or mismanaged the DCEU as it is, they don't really have any other choice.
No,
like
no,
they have to throw in this multiverse thing at this point. And it's gonna feel weird because we got like they got this like Black Superman movie in development. We don't know if Henry Cavill's ever gonna come back. I don't know why, but we're at that point. We know Ben Affleck's apparently only coming back to be in the Flash movie, but then we also know that there's going to be a Wonder Woman 3. There's going to be an Aquaman 2. And these characters are in the Flash. All these characters exist in that Snyderverse, but they can't really go on with
not
it.
Because that Snyderverse is not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
No.
So it's like a very weird predicament that they've put themselves in because of all this. So it's like I mean, Wonder Woman more so than like Aquaman, but Aquaman did it too. We're very self-contained. Like Wonder Woman did it by just being decades before, but then Aquaman made one reference to Steppenwolf, like offhand from Mera, and that was the only connection it had. So I mean, they've kind of been doing it already, but it's just this like weird amalgamation that's gonna end up happening, and I don't know. Like again, they just kind of have no other choice. I think they can make it work, but it is gonna be weird for them to have like this Robert Pattinson Batman, but then they're gonna make a Batgirl movie
that has nothing to do with.
Yeah, is it gonna be in Ben Affleck's Batman, Batgirl,
It could be in any of them?
Like, just some random you never see Batman, kind of like Titans. Like he's there, and Jorah Mormont plays him, but he's just kind of a side character, or he doesn't really show up at all. Or are they gonna have sex on the roof? Like who knows?
We can only hope.
Yeah, and it is what it is. Probably not, considering everybody hated that when it happened. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see where they go with it. I just find it's the picking and choosing of what is going to be a streaming movie for them. I don't know if I agree with it. Like Blue Beetle, I know it's the smarter bet would to make a low budget version of it or a lower budget version of it, but that character is not really the Ted Cord Blue Beetle would have worked for a lower budget one, but the Jaime Reyes one I don't really think would work for it. Like Shazam, which is a very like you kind of mentioned with like Spider-Man and Shazam is going to be a very similar kind of coming of age kind of story. Both of those movies were more than $65 million. Like Shazam was a pretty small self-contained movie.
For $100
realistically didn't have a whole lot of special effects, and it was $100 million movie. Like
all the sins though were special effects in that. Like I imagine you're not going to you might get a quick like narrative, especially if the Scarab talks to Jaime. You may get like a quick narrative recap of where the Scarab comes from, but you're not going to get like a flashback scene of this Scarab being developed or the alien race that it comes from or anything like that.
The other Beatles.
I'm guessing exactly. You're probably good there. That would all be. I'm guessing this is like testing the waters, and like if this, however they determine success, if this is successful, then maybe you get the bump to the $100 million big production for the sequel where they expand it out and do the other Beatles, or they do some sort of intergalactic conflict thing that he gets involved in.
Yeah,
and that is what they said their plan was, to like test like these lesser known characters on HBO Max, lower budget. If it's successful, maybe make a bigger budget one and put it in theaters after that.
Yeah,
I just don't agree with that one. I feel like they'd be better off introducing him in another movie, so then they can just make a bigger budget movie. I just don't see that story with Jaime working out all that well, because you can't do that stuff, which is like essentially core to the story. Like they're gonna have to do like, you know, if the movies are different than the comics, yes, like, but I don't know. It's just weird. It's like, imagine trying to do Iron Man for $65 million.
It just wouldn't work.
Like, it'd be kind of hard to do it.
I mean, you could make it work, but
you can make it work, but at what cost? You know, like
at what cost?
It's like Green Lantern. Like, you can't. It's the same concept. Like, you try to make a 65 million Green Lantern movie. I don't know if you can do. It's just gonna feel smaller, and you know, and it could. And it's like, it has all this potential, and if you can't really do it because of the budget, it just becomes kind of a problem. That's my only fear.
Yeah.
Like with anything that they're putting on HBO Max, you know, it's like, because they're trying to make things on the cheap, and then even if it's good, you have to hope it's amazing and gets good reception, because if it's not, then like maybe they'll do another one, but they'll keep it low budget, so you'll never get that big. That's why, honestly, too, speaking of Green Lantern, the fact that they're doing that as a series on HBO Max boggles my mind. Like, I've been worried
how
about
much
that
money are they
forever.
gonna how much money are they gonna put into that? You know,
Yeah.
what's the episode cost for that? You know, you got Lord of the Rings coming out on Amazon, and they're spending just insane money on a ultimately kind of like swords and sorcery. Like, I know the sorcery aspect of it will take some doing CGI wise, but you know, the swords and, you know, horses and the
That's all real
medieval
stuff.
kind of aspect, that's all practical stuff that isn't you wouldn't think would be as cost prohibitive. So whatever they're spending the money on is like huge, and like Green Lantern is all CGI. Like, I don't know how you get away from anything CGI with Green Lantern, and I can't imagine their production budget is going to be anywhere close to what Amazon's spending on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and there's no way. There's no way they have that much faith in it.
And they're doing a Green Lantern core. They're not just doing like Green Lantern, like Guy Gardner on Earth, and doing this is supposed to be like a Green Lantern core movie, which means multiple lanterns, which means multiple alien species, which means even more CGI in addition to just the Green Lantern constructs and costumes and whatnot. So yeah, that's baffling.
The constructs themselves, I mean, that's a huge undertaking CGI wise, but like you said, having extra species and all that sort of stuff, that really kind of makes you think like get expensive.
I mean, all, you know, you're talking about doing the Mandalorian with adding in CGI effects for the constructs, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
And it's got to be big feeling, you know, like Mandalorian can do that, but like, they're gonna need to make a volume. Like,
the production quality's gotta at least match what Mandalorian does. I mean,
100%.
that's at bare minimum, it's got to match what they do, and maybe even more so, because they don't have the prestige of the Star Wars name attached to it. They're going to live or die by how well the effects come out and how well people. The story obviously is a huge part of that too, but it's also got to look just as good too.
Yeah, like that again. That is my only concern with anything that they're doing, because Marvel is not doing that with their shows. Marvel is treating that. Kevin Feige has stated that their Disney Plus programming is having the same amount of production value, quality, and love as a big movie would.
Right.
And you can see that watching any of the series that have came out. They are all feature film quality. Like, and HBO and Warner has admitted that they're absolutely not doing that. They're going to make these lesser known characters at a lower cost, and I'm just worried that it could definitely be done, but given, you know, Warner's and DC's track records, I definitely am a little bit skeptical. But I'm just worried it's inevitably gonna kind of kick them in the ass, because like, if you put more money into it to make it as good as possible, you don't have to spend $200 million on everything, but know which one can, you know. Batgirl could serve for a lower budget. Blue Beetle, Green Lantern, you're gonna be skimping on your quality at that point. We're making it too small, and it just worries me a little bit. You know?
Yeah,
true.
But we'll just have to wait and see. But this is, like I said, this is a huge article that came out on LA Times. It talks obviously more about the Batgirl stuff and everything, but that's just the stuff that like I kind of want to focus on. But because it goes through and kind of gives, like I said, their plans about what they're going to do going forward after this merger. So if you want to go look at it, it's out there. Go search that and go find it. But question is, though, Or you saying?
Sorry, it does mention that there are 5 DC movies coming out next year, and I knew that there were a lot coming. I didn't realize that there were 5 next year,
Yeah.
and now one of them is the DC Super Pets animated movie. So take that for what it's worth. I'm super excited about it, but I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. But there are 4 other live action ones. So
I want to see if when that movie comes out, if they spend more on that movie, which they probably had to for The Rock and
to get the
John
voice
Krasinski
acting,
and Kevin Hart, like
exactly.
all these people, like they're spending more on that than Batgirl and Blue Beetle, probably. I mean,
Oh, I didn't think about that, but you're probably right.
it does
That's
have, though, being
crazy.
an animated family kind of movie with a very known property, and as the DC world, it has the potential of making a ton of money if it's good. So I mean, I can cut them a little bit of slack for doing it, but it's still like, I don't know. I feel like in the end, making a big budget Super Pets movie is just as risky, if not more risky, than bumping the budget on like Blue Beetle or something.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't know, because like most animated stuff does not make $1 billion. Like only Disney and
Yeah.
Pixar does that. No one else does that. They
Right.
make good money, but not $1 billion kind of
No.
money. So I'm curious. I am curious about the Super Pets movie, but
the article did also, I just wanted to point out, it said that their whole day and date thing with the movies going to HBO Max and box office has bumped their subscriptions, time wise. They had 38 million subscribers in September of last year, and they claim to be up to 44.2 now. So you
Yeah.
see about a 6.2 million jump in subscribers based off of that, which is, what is that, about 90 million in revenue? That's 90 million a month in revenue. So,
It's a lot.
over 6 or 7 months, you're looking at, you're getting close to $1 billion there. And then you add in the box office receipts for what little these movies are making at the box office, and you start to see that maybe it wasn't the worst, besides, as long as they can repair those relationships with the actors and directors, maybe it may end up actually having working out for them.
It's still crazy to think that at least to me, the HBO is like struggling to get subscribers because they got like great content, dude. Like
Sure.
all their shows are amazing. Like that Mayor of Eastwood, I think it was Eastwood, Mayor of Eastwood show.
Easttown.
There's the Easttown. I think it was
Easttown,
one
I
of the
think.
two. It's either Eastwood or
People
Easttown.
love it.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. I watched it. Like it was
Oh,
fantastic.
did you? I haven't
Oh,
seen
dude,
it
so
yet.
good.
It's supposed to be
Yeah, I haven't
amazing.
seen
Yeah.
it.
But they have like they always have shows of that quality though, and it's like so it's just HBO's worth enough just for the shows. Game of Thrones, man, like
There you go.
it was
Yeah.
like it's The Sopranos, all these things. Like there's like the fact that somehow HBO isn't as popular. It's like granted, yeah, like Disney Plus is like 103 million subscribers right now. It is half the price of HBO.
That's true.
So it's got that going for it, but Disney also has Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel attached to it. So
Right,
it's like I get why they're huge, but it is kind of crazy to me that HBO is like struggling to get subs with everything they actually have. Like when you sit down and look at it, like they have amazing content.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's crazy too. I also just don't think you can underestimate the just this kind of sticker shock, or just the perceived value or the perceived worth of the streaming service. Like when Disney's coming out and releasing their service for $6.99 a month when they first start out, and you're getting Disney, you're getting all the Star Wars, all the Marvel, all the Disney stuff. And then you get HBO, which admittedly is great for older people, but they don't have the family draw of the Disney animated library. They don't have the recent big budget superhero success of the Marvel universe and the return of Star Wars. What, 4 or 5? Well, I mean, we're 6, 7, 8 years ago now. They don't have any of those big names to hang their hat on. Besides, like you said, their original program, which is phenomenal and worth it. But their price is over twice what Disney was. Like I think Disney and Netflix, showed, you start out small, you get people hooked. You give them the first taste free, or at least for a very reasonable amount, and then you slowly start climbing the price on them, and they'll just accept it along the way. And HBO just didn't do that for some reason. And
Yeah,
I know why
it
they
would have
didn't.
been a better idea. It would have.
HBO didn't do that because they had a price point already set for the HBO service without HBO Max. Before HBO Max came out, if you wanted HBO streaming, HBO Go, you had to pay $15 a month. Or you had to have a cable provider and get their HBO Now service,
100%.
which was also, $15 to $20 a month. So they already had that internal perceived price point in their head, and they just couldn't get it. They couldn't get couldn't get out of their own way to fix to compete.
They could have done something to where like they still can do this, by the way. But if they really wanted to, they could do like, if you sign up now, you get an introductory $7 a month price for a
like
year.
a special rate.
Like,
bundle that shit, put it together, and do like 6 months. It's normally, it's $15 a month, so 6 months is what, 30, 60, $90. So instead of $90, you get it for half price. You do 6 months and you get it for 50 or something like that.
Right.
Like, bundle that together and get people in the door. And maybe once Discovery happens, maybe they'll bundle Discovery with HBO Max and give you like a low $9.99 a month for the first year price or something before they expand it out or something. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, they could do that when they do the merger thing, and if they do add the Discovery content, the HGTV and all that stuff, which is definitely what they need to do. They want to bump their stuff up, make a new package where it has everything.
Right.
Like, because they still need to keep Discovery as its own separate thing, because it has like a very large subscriber count for what it is. They don't want to alienate those viewers by any means, but they definitely need to make a big bundle, rename it like Warner Plus or something, or Warner Discovery Plus, and just say like it's HBO Max and it's Discovery all in one, and then introductory pricing for $8 or whatever, and just fine print that shit to say, it's gonna go up to 15 later.
Right.
But it'll work. Like, it'll 100%. Like, I would sign up for it. I already pay for it for 15 anyway, so I wouldn't be hurting. So I don't really care. But yeah, they really missed the market. And like you said, for 100%, they could. I don't know what they could have done, since like HBO already cost $15. It's like, now we have this bigger new service. Like,
it's a new service. You don't even. First of all, you don't. You do what you've always said, and don't call it HBO.
100%, exactly. If they would have
call
done
it Warner Bros.
Yeah,
Warner Plus, and bring it out for $7.99 or whatever, and there you don't even tie the perceived. Yeah, you get the HBO stuff there, but that only the people that have HBO really know that.
Yeah, that would have been the only way they could have got around it. Because then it's just like, okay, because then you'd have the people who complain like, I'm paying this for HBO though. Like, it's just like, well, cancel it and get the Warner Plus. Like, that's all you do, man.
Duh.
Like, it's common sense. So that would have definitely, if they would have done that, we wouldn't be having these conversations. We would have lost a lot of content if they would have done that. Because we've talked about that for ever since it came out. It's been a problem. Jesus, at least it's not as bad as the name of Peacock. I'll still give them that.
We're not leaving it in season 1. We're bringing it to season 2.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come to season 3 at this rate. We'll definitely see. So, but yes, the question is though, guys, have you seen this article? What are your thoughts on, are you looking forward to this merger? Like, I think it's a good thing. Inevitably, I really do hope that they. Like, I think HBO Max itself is probably overall it's definitely top 3 of the streaming services, 100%. And in my opinion, you got to have Disney Plus, Netflix, and HBO Max, and then everything else is just secondary, in my opinion. Because as far as original content and then library programming goes, they have the most between those 3 and the best, in my opinion. All subjective though. But what are your thoughts on this? Are you worried about their DC movies, like I was talking about earlier, the way they're budgeting some of this content out? It has me worried that they're gonna kind of, because they're focusing on the money instead of the content itself, that it may not be as good as it could be. I don't know. I'm worried about that, like I said. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here brings us to. I just wanted to throw it in here because I think it speaks to a greater problem with Netflix more so than anything, because we didn't get to cover this because we didn't do a show this past week. But I talked about the Jupiter's Legacy show back when it came out, like, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, because I did sit through and watch the whole thing. I ultimately did recommend you watch it. I said it's not as good as it could have been, but there was some good stuff in it. Like overall, I probably would have given it like a more positive rating than a negative rating because I felt like it was very 50-50. I'll just put it that way. But last week, when we didn't do a show, the news came out that Netflix has pulled the plug on it. But it was a simultaneous announcement in that they canceled Jupiter's Legacy and announced a spin-off series set in the world of Jupiter's Legacy, which I thought was very strange. Because like, why would you continue a show based on a show that you're canceling after its first season? It seems kind of odd. Seems like a very odd thing to do. And I even said it's like making a Batman movie and canceling the Batman sequels, but making a Robin movie instead. It doesn't really make any sense. Now, I forget what they're calling this spin-off show, but it's supposed to be, it has a really bad name. I can't remember what it is.
Is it Super Crooks?
Super Crooks, that is it.
Super
yes.
Crooks.
So it's going to be presumably focusing on like the bad guys in the world of Jupiter's Legacy. So I don't know, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure that's like its own comic in the Millar verse itself as well. So it's not like some random thing that they're doing just from the show and what the show set up by any means. And they didn't really announce if there were going to be any like recurring characters or anything like that. But the odd thing here that just kind of came out the other day is that after it's been canceled by Netflix, now apparently Jupiter's Legacy is kind of popping off on the streaming charts.
Of course it is.
So, and this is what I meant when I kind of said, like, I think this speaks to a greater problem that Netflix has, because I feel like they just cancel things too soon a lot of the times. Like, it doesn't happen like every other day.
They get a couple bad reviews though, and they just can it.
Yeah, it's like, they canceled the show. It couldn't have been more than a week after it came out. And it's like, you didn't really give it any time to even build an audience at that point.
No, that's a week. That's no time at all.
Like it's just, I just found it really weird. And they've done this in the past. Like normally it's like with Netflix, it's 3 seasons and you're done. It doesn't matter how good the show is, what it is, you'll get 3 seasons at most, and then they're going to cancel and pull a plug on it. Stranger Things has been the only thing that's really lasted longer than 3 seasons. And without getting the plug pulled on it.
But what the hell? Making a different show set up in the same universe of a show that you're canceling. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
No. And it's like, I feel like they're only doing it because they have this deal with Mark Millar. So they're just cashing in on it.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's their biggest problem at this point is it's not just a deal. They purchased the Millar world outright. They paid him for his entire line of comics and original IP. And they paid him, I'm assuming, quite a bit because you can't buy IP anymore cheap. Like, I mean, it's not it's not like the old days where Superman got made for page rates at DC Comics. Now you pay through the nose for anything just because of the potential of it catching on and becoming something later on. But they purchased the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel from Millar, and part of that was he was coming over and he was going to be creating content for them and creating new comics and stories and stuff. And Super Crooks, like you said, is in that same universe, and so I'm not sure. It's odd that I almost feel like this announcement was more of a, hey, if you're a fan of Mark Millar, don't jump ship on us yet. We're bringing you more of his stuff. We're just not going to continue with this one particular series because as far as I knew, I thought Super Crooks was already in the works. It wasn't like they were bringing that on to replace Jupiter's Legacy. That was already supposed to be coming out.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't doubt they had plans to do it because, like we said, like they bought Millar Worlds, so like they probably were going to make everything that they possibly could out of it. I just don't know why, because I think you linked another article at one point that showed that, like, I guess there was some behind the scenes drama with like making the series. So I mean, it could have been
that one just.
Oh, this is the wrong.
Yeah, that one just came out today or yesterday, there was like some of the people at Netflix that had originally greenlit Jupiter's Legacy left before the production was finished, and the people that came in weren't as enthusiastic about it. And then there was also the original showrunner,
Oh
was
yeah,
it
Stephen DeKnight
Stephen
here.
DeKnight,
Mhm.
who was involved with the Marvel Netflix shows at one point, right? Anyway,
Yeah, and
he wanted a
Spartacus.
production. Yeah, he wanted a production budget closer to like 12 to 13 million per episode, and it got chopped down to like 9 million per episode on him, and he actually ended up leaving as showrunner because of the differences, what Netflix wanted to make, what the higher ups at Netflix wanted to make it for, and what he felt they needed to make it for. And so he left and they brought in somebody else. So it just sounds like the whole production has been kind of
Flawed from the
like
start.
it not coming out gangbusters and doing great gave them the excuse they needed to axe it right away. But like you said, almost prematurely now, given the news that's coming out about how well it's doing now streaming.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It obviously I would have been more excited about it if Stephen DeKnight would have stayed on. We would have had a completely different show, I think, if it
Yeah.
was run by Stephen DeKnight. Because this show doesn't really have any DNA of a show like Stephen DeKnight made. Like
That's what it
Well, and
seems like, yeah.
how many episodes was it?
I think 8 episodes.
Okay, 8 episodes. You're
Yeah.
talking about a difference in budget between what he wanted and what they wanted to spend of $24 million. So I'm sorry, I know $24 million is it's a lot of money to most people, to everybody. But for a company like Netflix, who is going in debt as fast as they can, like, I would think $24 million would be a drop in the bucket to them in terms of creating a show that possibly has a lasting impact and can be done the way that a creator of his, I don't know what the right word, magnitude or his prestige or, brings to that project. So very odd place to start cutting corners and budgets, when you're trying to launch it, especially for a new IP that you're trying to get off the ground. That's an entire company that you've purchased with the express intent of doing this, creating your own universe, your own thing that you don't have to share profits with anybody else. You don't have to license out to anybody else. This is all yours.
Yeah, it's crazy because like Stephen Knight did the Daredevil series, and they did
Yeah.
like Spartacus, and like if you watched Jupiter's Legacy, you know it's nothing like what Stephen Knight's work was. So like, I think the show, like having seen all of his other content and then watching Jupiter's Legacy, I feel like we would have had an entirely different show, and it would have been a lot better. In all honesty, I think
Probably.
I don't think it would have had the same problems that it inevitably had, because those issues that the Jupiter's Legacy had, I've never seen in a Stephen DeKnight product. So I would have liked to have seen him stay on, because I did like the bones of, like, the world and the lore. I thought was good. They had a good foundation. So I don't know. I feel like speaking of a company who just spent 400, almost $500 million on the rights to Knives Out, and they couldn't shell out 24 million for a big superhero property thing, like,
right.
To keep their handpicked guy happy, and the guy that's brought them so much acclaim with the Marvel projects. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just odd choice.
Yeah, it's extremely odd from the start. And then now seeing that I'm sure they probably don't care because it's Netflix, but I'd be kicking myself if I was them, if I'm seeing how successful it's actually doing, even with it being bad, like.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like, Netflix is also the company that's supposed to be like, I don't know, the company that embraces things that other people typically don't want, or like they are so quick to axe things, but yet they're so quick to go out and like pick up Lucifer. Now, Lucifer is a great show. I'm not saying they shouldn't have picked up Lucifer. Lucifer is a phenomenal show, and it deserved to be continued. But they're also the company that goes out and finds these shows that, other people have said aren't profitable or they don't want, and they bring them in and they give them another life on Netflix, and like they aren't that own way with their own. It's a very odd business model that they're following.
Yeah.
It is. I don't understand where they're going with it, because they've saved Lucifer 3 times now, and I couldn't be happier about it because that's one of my favorite shows. Because they saved it from Fox after Fox canceled it to do one more season, but then it did so good they brought it back for season 5, because they saved it after season 3, so they did season 4. It was supposed to end, and it was so good they're like, okay, we'll get everybody back to season 5, and it was supposed to be the end, and then they renewed it for season 6 because it keeps doing so good. So that saved the show 3 damn times, and I'm really happy because that's like one of my favorite shows to watch, because Tom Ellis is like amazing as Lucifer. He's like the best character on television. Like I would pay to watch him just be Lucifer for forever. I don't care. Like he's so good in the role. Like I loved the only good thing about that crossover of the
Crisis on Infinite
Crisis
Earths,
was that he popped in for 2 seconds with Constantine, because they're in the
that was
same
great.
universe from the
Interaction.
comics. So it's like I would love to see them, dude. If they could just do a Constantine show and bring it back, and then like have the people that do
Lucifer, to have the people that do Lucifer also do a Constantine show, and then just cross them over occasionally.
Yeah, dude, it'd be great. Like I'd pay to watch it. Like why the hell not?
Right.
But yeah, it's super strange though, that contrast between let's save a show that wasn't even ours 3 times now.
Yeah.
But then this big property,
we're not going to give
Access
that we went out and purchased. Yeah, we're not going to give it more than 2 or 3 days to show us that it's viable. Like
we'll give it a week, and then we're going to cancel it. Like it's I don't know.
At that point, it's almost like they knew they were canceling it. It's just like, we'll give it a week. Like,
I would say like it's the behind the scenes stuff that primarily led to this, but like you said, this is endemic of a problem that Netflix has had from the get-go. Like, what was the Anthony Mackie show that they had out that did Altered Carbon? Like that did okay, and it got a second season, but
he was only in the second season. The first season was great with Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman was the lead in the first season. The show, if you didn't watch it, it's like it's in a futuristic setting to where essentially your AI is uploaded into like you're uploaded into like your consciousness is in like a little disc, and you can be plugged into like skins. And in this series, Joel Kinnaman was the first main character, and in the second season, Anthony Mackie was that same character. Just Anthony was the new skin. For the
same
person, because his brain's on a little disc, so you can go wherever he wants. It is the first season though. It was awesome. I really loved it. Like it was kind of,
and it got a second season, but from what I read, like even as good as the first season was, the second season they gave it to it just because they felt they had to give it another shot, and it didn't do what they wanted, and so then they canceled that, even though the story wasn't done. Like, I mean, we talked about this last year in season 1 where I think at one point we talked about how I at least I feel like Netflix is really in danger. Like if I was a fan of these shows, now luckily they haven't done this to me yet. But if I was a fan of these shows and like I really invested some time and some energy into one of these, like if I had loved Jupiter's Legacy and they just ripped the carpet out the rug out from underneath me and canceled this show that I absolutely love, I'd be like, well, why do I want to stick with Netflix? Like, why do I want to keep, supporting you? And
if they're just going to pull it out like that. Yeah.
I don't get why they do it, man. It's like Stranger Things has been the only one of their things that they like keep going for. I don't know. It's the first one of their original programs. It's got a 4th season. Like I'm pretty sure, unless they have some weird offhand like travel show that I don't know about that doesn't cost them any money to make. But like none of their big budget stuff, big budget quote unquote, their flagship series. Like I've never seen them get over a 3rd season. And it's like,
God's sakes, they canceled the Marvel TV shows.
Yeah. But I don't think that was their choice.
I thought, but didn't they still have because they still had the license up through the end of what?
They
2019.
I feel
they canceled them 2 or 3 years.
I feel like they leaned on them. I feel like the big boys at Disney leaned on them. Yeah, because they were coming out on Disney Plus.
Okay, so you think Disney was like, you guys need to cut it out so that we
Cease and desist.
Yeah.
space between when you end and when we start our own thing?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what happened behind the scenes. They probably just bought them
Okay.
out because, like, it was like
Okay.
randomly. It was around the same time they announced Disney Plus. News came out that Netflix canceled all the series. Like,
Yeah.
and Punisher
Okay.
just got season 2 done, and Jessica Jones just got. Luke Cage only. Well, no, it has 2 seasons, but then it's like Daredevil season 3 comes out, and it was amazing, and it got left on like the cliffhanger, and it was just canceled. And
Yeah.
it's like,
That's
because
stupid.
they would have renewed Daredevil of all of them.
Exactly.
Like,
people love those shows.
They still want the dude to be Daredevil. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
still want him to come back and play Daredevil. I'm spacing on his name right now, but
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox. Like, if I had it my
Yeah.
way, he'd be Daredevil in the MCU 100%.
Yeah, he's a
definitely.
I wouldn't care.
Good
I wouldn't
Daredevil.
care what Kevin Feige thought about it. Like, I'd be like, dude, you gotta get him
screw
back.
Kevin Feige.
Like, get him back. But yeah, I really think I think they leaned on him because they didn't want. Obviously, Kevin Feige wants to do something with his characters. Like,
Sure.
it was good for them at the time because they didn't have a streaming service, and now they have these big plans. I mean, he's got 10 shows coming out that are Marvel based. And at some point, he's even like Daredevil. He said he's going to be in the MCU at some point. It's just, I'm going to be upset about it no matter what because Charlie Cox and John Bernthal were like born to play those two characters. Like, they were so good.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only shame. But nevertheless, Netflix needs to get their shit together with this stuff.
Right.
Like, it's weird. I would be, before we break up, what are the odds you think they actually, based on Jupiter's Legacy's success, they inevitably do come back and do, like, they continue it in some way?
I don't know.
I mean, the biggest issue they have, at least from Millar's statement that he released after they announced the cancellation, he said that they've released all the actors and actresses from their contracts. So
it doesn't sound like they would.
Exactly. Now you've got the problem of those people. I mean, this is what they do for a living, so they're all finding other jobs. So even if, like, Super Crooks does well and they want to bring it back, there's no guarantee that these same people are going to be available later on to do a revival or do another iteration of it in some form.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird situation because I don't know what I'd want to do at this point if I was them. Like, seeing that it's getting good reception, if I was Netflix, I'd go back to Stephen the Knight and be like, "Well, will you come and do season 2 and we'll give you the more money because they liked it and it sucked. So you could make it good and it'd just be good." Yeah, it'd be good. So like, but yeah, since they've released all the actors, it's going to be a lot harder to make that happen if they wanted to do it at all. Because, like, even if they don't have like something else lined up right now, they're probably going to feel kind of shitty about it, and they're going to be like, "Oh, fine, I'll come back, but I'm going to want more money now, you assholes."
Right.
Like, but it is
You're bringing them back like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you cancel the show from me. They probably signed like a 3-4 season deal, I imagine, at least 3, knowing Netflix. So
yeah,
because it's shitty for them for the most part too. But I mean, it's Hollywood. It is what it is.
That's Hollywood.
Yeah, it's not show friends; it's show business, right? But but yeah, the question is, though, what do you guys think of this? Are you surprised? I was actually surprised to see, for one, that Jupiter's Legacy started popping off like this at all after the fact, because, like I said, ultimately, I recommended watching it because there was like good stuff in there, but in the end, I wouldn't say it was never a must-watch show. You know what I mean? So it was very 50-50. I could see why someone would like it, and I could see why someone would hate it. But like I said, I was more surprised to see that it's popping off now. But what do you guys think about the Netflix? Like, if they see these numbers like they obviously do, you think they're going to maybe bring this back in some way in the future? You think they're disappointed at all that they pulled the plug on it? Whatever you guys think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys, so our next topic here is going to be our very late at this point, because I mentioned this off the top. We're going to have to do something for our Loki, reviews and discussions, because our show comes out on Mondays, but Loki comes out 2 days later. So we're talking episode 1 right now. And episode 2 is going to be out in like 2 days. It's really unfortunate timing. So we're going to have to do something about that. We're going to have to make a video on like Thursdays for this.
Or we're going to have to do it on the live stream.
I guess we could just
Fridays,
specifically do it
and
on
then
Fridays. Yeah.
you could clip it. You could clip that
Yeah.
out, and it would just wouldn't be part of the H&U episode each week.
Right.
Yeah, that'll probably be for the best. Because I mean, yeah, because we do that normally anyway. We normally just kind of like sloppily talk about it on the live stream. So
Sure,
we could just make it more of a formal thing, and so we can clip it out.
sure.
That'd probably be for the best. Honestly, that was a good thought.
Yeah.
100%. But nevertheless, this show, the first thing I said to you guys in Discord was like, there's a reason why this became my most anticipated show from Disney Plus. It at first started out as Falcon Winter Soldier because Winter Soldier is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. So I was super stoked about that show when everything was announced back in that Disney press conference thing that they did. But I never really had any like huge hype for this Loki show at that point in time. I wasn't like didn't think it was a bad idea. I figured it would be good.
I mentioned it in another episode. This was my most anticipated show.
Well, that's the thing. When they dropped those trailers, this became my most anticipated, like out of all of them, because they dropped the trailer for WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier and then Loki, and then I literally had to just be like, well, Loki looks way better than the other two. Like,
yeah,
that's because not that the other trailers were bad, it just really intrigued me and just had just the look and feel of it, it caught me. And like the trailers for Falcon Winter Soldier, even though it started off as in concept being my most anticipated, once I saw the trailer, I was just like, okay, that's fine. Like it did nothing to really like get me going.
right.
But the Loki one did, and needless to say, episode 1 did not disappoint. Like, I thought it was amazing.
It's pretty good.
I loved everything they did, like, with the timekeepers and, like, the just great character development for a character that we've known for 10 years already.
It was an
Like
interesting concept, too, like, not having the magic at, like, the timekeeper's place and, like, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but, like, the whole scene with, like, the Tesseract and Infinity Stones and all that, like, just a interesting perspective on things.
oh, no, that's what, like, one of the coolest, like, that was one of the best moments is when he, like, breaks out of the little room and he goes to get his gear, and then the Tesseract from the dude who doesn't know what a fish is.
Right.
Don't even know how that's humanly possible, but
if you're not human.
yeah, but they know everything. This dude don't know what a fish is.
Like, hey, he spent his whole life at
Yeah.
a desk. He says it himself.
The main reason here's the thing that makes it seem less. It was obviously just there for a quick joke laugh. Like I get that, but it's also illogical based on what the show set up previously. When Loki went to go through that thing, and he thought like he questioned whether he was a robot or not because it would like melt you from the inside out. The little dude who was facilitating that whole thing, he said like, you must or something about like, do you have what most species would consider to be a soul? So they know what a soul is. Yeah, they definitely know what a fish is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But either way, it was a good little laugh. It was fine. It was just conceptually like they wouldn't know what a fish is.
Yeah, you'd have to know
You
at
have
least
to
what
know.
a fish is.
You have to have some idea. But either way, that scene though was awesome because it's like in the music, dude. I was telling Rick, if anybody's ever listened to Nero, their what was that album called that I'm thinking of?
Oh, I know exactly what the cover looks like. But
Me too. I just can't. What was
it's a good album.
It's a
It's like
fantastic
Nero's
album.
main album.
Yeah, it was like their first big album. It had Promises on it and everything. But there's a song called Departure and Reaching Out. Those two songs are like
Good songs.
Like the melodies that Loki the series has at like those like magnificent times, like when he looks out upon the wonder of what the TVA looks like, and he says, "I thought there's no magic here." That little synth that's playing there, and then when he's like finds the Infinity Stones and realizes that like this place is no joke, like the Infinity Stones are paperweights here, and he's just having this internal reflection of just like what is the meaning of life. Go listen to Departure by Nero, because I've always thought every time I listen to that song, like that's what's going through my mind is like with that music. It's like it sounds the same. So I love the music in the show, nevertheless. But that scene was amazing just because the internal reflection. But like the craziest thing about this show is not really the craziest, but one of the coolest things what I really like is that, like, the best scenes was just with him and Owen Wilson just sitting down and talking. Like,
Talking.
you know what I mean? It wasn't like some big crazy action set piece or anything stupid like that. Like, it was all fun when he was, messing with the girl and making her, go through time and, all those bits are fine, but, like, the best scenes was just 2 dudes sitting on a table just talking to each other. And, like, him going through and watching his life unfold that he hasn't experienced yet, seeing, that he was what got his mom killed and, seeing him and Thor working side by side and his dad dying and then his inevitable death by Thanos, like, it was great.
Yeah, it was deep.
Like, it was great, and Tom Hiddleston just knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. I can't wait. I hear episode 2 is even better than episode 1. So I'm super stoked for, a couple days from now when that comes out. I do have a question for you guys too, because there's been a lot of debate about this online, and the show kind of sets it up as one way, but inevitably also doesn't. So here's the concept though. With the TVA and the timekeepers, all right? They say that the time like in the little like thing where they introduce what the hell everything is with Miss Minutes, like a little DNA from Jurassic Park, they say that like initially the world it was all multiverse and chaos and blah 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 until the timekeepers came in and streamlined and made the sacred timeline. All right. And they even say at one point like something about being on your predetermined path, right?
Yeah.
And the question is, like the debate that's going on is like, is everything that happens on the sacred timeline, is it actually like predetermined? Like, is it predestination? Or did the timekeepers actually orchestrate everything
Right.
and
Like,
make
did
it
they
is what
set
it
it up?
is? Yeah. Or do people actually have free will? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it all
I mean,
Because yeah,
predetermined?
that would say that people don't have free will if that was the
yeah,
case.
according to their own admissions, people don't have free will. I mean, that's the whole thing that Loki bumps up against is if I do this, if I take over the world, it's because I did it, not because you guys allowed me to it. And they're basically telling him, no,
No.
it's because we allowed you to do it because you're sticking to the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
So whoever the head, I forget what they called them now. The three
The timekeepers.
cosmic beings, the timekeepers. I thought they had another name too. Anyway, the three cosmic beings, the timekeepers that decided on this timeline, like that. I need to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that I really, really like the show. Maybe even love the show. I love Tom Hiddleston.
I
Obviously,
love it.
he's amazing. Um, the one thing I kept bumping up against in this particular episode was the overwhelming, I don't even know what the right word is, the overwhelming power that the timekeepers have, or that the TVA
Mm-hmm.
has over the Marvel universe. I mean, when things like the Infinity Stones, who we just spent 22 movies watching wreak havoc in some way or another on the MCU as a whole, we saw Thanos, wipe out half of existence with them. When they are reduced to paperweights by this organization, and they look at them as trinkets, and when you have this entity, these timekeepers who have decided that, who are basically determining, who have decided with the way everything's going to work and the way everything's going to go, it takes away from the, I don't know, it takes away from like
Lessens it.
it lessens Tony's sacrifice at the end of Endgame, because that was just what had to happen. Like, Tony didn't get to decide that he was going to give his life to save the universe, because if he had to have decided that, and the timekeepers had decided, well, that's the way it has to go, then they would have taken him back and redone it until he did it right, or chosen the timeline in which he did do it. And so like I said, it to me, it in a way steps on what came before and lessens it to a certain extent. Now, Disney's smart, Kevin Feige's smart. I don't think that this is going to hold up in this manner or fashion. I think the Timekeepers may end up being less of a altruistic beings and more of an issue to be dealt with later on. And so I think that will, that some of what they're saying may be a little bluster too, that maybe they're not as influential as they want people to believe. And so I kind of, in my heart of hearts, I hope that we find out that what they're telling Loki, at least from the jump here, is not true, just because of the impact that it has on what came before up to this point. So that's the only thing that for this particular episode, that I kept bumping up against, was just the overwhelming power that this organization entities have.
They're like all powerful. I mean, like,
they are
over everything.
I mean, as Loki said, the TVA is formidable. That's what Loki said. Like, but
it's not wrong.
Here's one thing though, that because kind of piggybacking off what you were saying, to where this might not be how it is going forward. If we refer back to when we talked about this on the show, maybe during like WandaVision times, I can't remember, because there was like confusion out there because WandaVision's supposed to tie in with Spider-Man, and then that's supposed to tie in with Doctor Strange. But then I went out and found that article that Kevin Feige actually stated, because there's for some reason there's a lot of confusion out there, because he didn't just say WandaVision and Spider-Man tie into it. Kevin Feige was quoted saying that WandaVision, Spider-Man, and Loki all lead into Multiverse of Madness in some way. So what you're saying, John, is my theory here is that, I mean, given at the end of like the first episode, which we'll get into in a minute, but I think Loki, this series, in the TVA and the Timekeepers and stuff, I think they're gonna be destroyed at the end, and that's gonna be a plot point of Multiverse of Madness. Because if you remember the Miss Minutes thing, they literally say that like, before the Timekeepers came in, the multiverse was in chaos and uncontrolled, and there was a multiverse of war because like all these things were different.
Universes were at war,
yeah. Because then so the Timekeepers came in and made one single timeline. So, and like that's what it is. Anytime something that happens that is not in that timeline that they've constructed, they go and they delete it. So there's one sacred timeline now, as opposed to all these different ones that even the Sorcerer Supreme and Endgame told Bruce Banner, like the split dimension. If those two things the crystals don't get brought back to her world, you know what I mean? So my theory, and given the fact that the reveal at the end that the variant that is going around killing everybody is Loki, which I don't think is true, it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that at the end of this series, the Timekeepers, or the sacred timeline itself, will be destroyed, and it's gonna I mean, that alone would create a Multiverse of Madness, like, by itself.
Sure, it would unspool it back into the multiverse. I also hope that we also find out that they decided that this timeline, that whatever timeline they're currently in, came about after the events of what we had watched up through Endgame, and hopefully even like right up to the beginning of this show is kind of the impetus for the beginning of this sacred timeline. Just because, like I said, if everything was all in promoting or keeping the sacred timeline intact, then nothing anybody did was their choice, and it just it reduces the impact of all those sacrifices, and not just sacrifices, but decisions, the heroic acts, anything that happened, even the bad acts, like even Loki being a terrible person and ripping out that guy's eyeball to get into in the Avengers film didn't matter. It's not that big a deal because it's all part of the sacred timeline, and pushed the timeline forward the way it needed to happen.
Right. I know what you're saying, but technically though, they still chose to do that. It's whenever something happens outside of that, it gets deleted. So like Loki and everyone still had free will. It's just that if something happens to make that, because like that dude was literally late for work. Like that's all it was. Like the guy who got disintegrated in front of Loki, he was just late for work, and he was a Nexus event, and they fucking deleted it. Like, you know what I mean?
Or reset him or whatever.
But I guess what I'm saying is like to take it back to comic books and kind of where multiverse for me I came into my life was, you know, the DC comic had their prime universe, like their universe where all the DC stories happened. And then in the 60s you got Earth 2, which featured the Golden Age heroes, and you know the Flash crossed over and met Jay Garrick and Flash of Earth 2, and then you start having the JSA and JLA team ups and stuff. But the main DC continuity was that Earth Prime that you always followed up until, you know, Crisis on Infinite Earths when they merged everything. And while I understand what you're saying about people make their own decisions, in the universe that we were watching, in the Marvel's MCU Prime universe that we have been a part of for the past decade, the characters made choices and stuff that, you know, obviously they made, and that added to the characters' characterization, for lack of a better way to put it. And so Loki came off as a very conflicted character because he would do awful things, but then you also got to see, you know, him really feel like he had no choice but to do these awful things. What I'm saying though is if there aren't other worlds in which Loki makes different choices, if this is the only choice he can make, it takes away from the importance of that choice, because all these other versions of him that may have made different choices don't exist anymore because they're keeping just this one intact.
Yeah.
And
which
so
is true,
it's
it's like they're not giving people a chance to do anything else.
No, it's just
determined.
So yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, for sure. So it's like a mixture of both, in my opinion, because like it's not, because like that's just going back to what I said. There's like this debate on whether it's like predestination or just foreknowledge for the most part. Like, just like, do the timekeepers just know what's going to happen, or do they determine what's going to happen? And it's both. It's not just one, because they determined that there's only going to be one timeline, and that's what we're going to stick to. They didn't make Loki make all those choices. He had free will to make all his choices. But at any point in time where he doesn't make a choice that is on the sacred timeline, it gets deleted. So that's where the predestination part kicks in, because it's been predetermined by the timekeepers that there's one timeline. So if Loki doesn't make that choice, it's going to get deleted.
It's a timeline that they chose, though, too.
Exactly.
Which is you know, they're obviously, you know, everybody has a choice in everything you do. Like I get to choose what I have for breakfast tomorrow morning when I wake up. But if some entity out there has already determined they want me to have Captain Crunch, then you know, that choice is no longer my choice.
Yeah.
You know, even though there's timelines where I might choose differently, I might choose to get a cinnamon roll.
Yeah.
It is no longer your choice if someone else has already chosen that for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Takes away the idea of like free will and
yeah, because it's like they still can choose that, but it's like we said, like that one dude was literally just late for work, and like
how is that? Like, it could have been something totally out of his control. Like,
yeah, but after all the times in the sacred timeline that he was never late for work, so like there, it was a Nexus event, so they deleted.
All right, I'm gonna double think all this stuff now. Like, if I'm running a little late to work and stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so far, everything you've done, at least to your knowledge, has been a part of the sacred timeline.
To my knowledge,
yeah.
But that's the crazy thing just about life in general, is all the little nuances and stuff, like the day you get up and, you know, you get out of bed 10 minutes late to go to work, and you're driving on to work and you run up on an accident, you come up on an accident that happened 10 minutes earlier. If you had been on time that day, you would have been in the middle of that accident. You know, it's just all those little nuances that are just kind of can drive you mad sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. So my main thing here too, to kind of wrap it up, because I think we covered most of everything anyway. Like, we all love it. The one thing that I was telling Rick when it was this was also too, I will add, out of all the other Marvel shows, This is the only one that I actually wanted to, like, go back and rewatch the episode just because I liked it so much.
Yeah, we
Like, 'cause I
watched it
loved
last
WandaVision.
night. That was
Yeah,
your second time.
that was my second time watching it, and I would watch it again. Like, if Sarah wanted to watch it, I'd watch it. Like, I wouldn't care. It's
It's
great.
entertaining.
I
It's
love it.
good.
It's good. But, like, with WandaVision, I never felt like I needed to go back and rewatch it. Like,
I never felt that way with WandaVision, yeah.
yeah, it was Falcon Winter Soldier. I watched it once. Like, I never wanted to go back and watch it. Like, I would. It's not like I'm against it.
I watched them all twice. I don't know.
Yeah, I never felt the
I'm a
need to.
sucker.
Yeah. I mean, I did
Yeah.
watch a couple episodes of WandaVision. I watched everything up to the season finale a second time because I watched it with Sarah. But, like, she wasn't really too much into it, so she never even watched the finale when it came out. So I've watched
Yeah.
everything but the finale twice of that. But with Loki, like, I was just like, man, I just want to watch that again. It was good. And there was something I picked up in it that I didn't see before. A couple things. One, I noticed the dude who was in the room who made him sign his papers and everything for everything that he said. It shows a shot from, like, behind him, and you can see one of his monitors, and on those, like, little analog green screens, he was playing solitaire on it. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. And then there was something else that I completely forget what it was, though, that I did not catch the first time. It was nothing, like, important or, like, Mephisto kind of things by any means. But that was hilarious, though, in the beginning, because when they showed that devil thing up on the wall and the stained glass, and the little girl's, like, points at it, it's just like, "Mephisto!"
Yeah, that's like what I said
Like,
literally when we watched it.
it's almost like they knew.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they knew, like, this Mephisto thing's gonna go out of control, so but it obviously fit in just because it's the Loki horns, which brings me to my point, though, is at the end, you get the reveal from Owen Wilson that the variant that's going around killing everybody in the TVA is Loki, and that's why he's wanting Loki's help. My thing is, though, if that were true, why didn't at the end when it shows the other squad of the TVA people getting killed, why didn't we see the guy's face who killed them?
Right.
If we were just told it was Loki, why hide his face?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think it's
They're
Loki.
hiding something.
Yeah, I don't think it's Loki, and I thought maybe, and this was another crazy kind of theory I had, is in the comics there's Lady Loki, right? And then on the paper that shows, like, you know, his bio that he's, like, holding, or like in the courtroom scene, or somebody's holding it. It shows, like, you know, name Laufey Laufeyson, blah blah blah, and then Rick pointed out that it said gender fluid. So my thought was like, well, since they put gender fluid on there, maybe this variant is Lady Loki, as opposed to him, Tom Hiddleston Loki. Because at no point has Loki ever been described in the MCU as being gender fluid,
Right.
like in any way, shape, or form. He's just there's been no indication that it wasn't, but there's been no indication that it was. So it's kind of odd for them just to actually have that notated there, unless it was a little Easter egg to maybe this variant that is going around killing people is in fact Lady Loki. So it's Loki, but not. You know what I mean? Like, maybe?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's really the only question, is if it's not Loki, then who the hell is it, and why would they want Loki's help? That's the only other, like, I don't have an answer for that. But I'm curious to see.
Yeah, this is not really on, but one of the things I was kind of looking forward to, or wondering about this series, was because we were getting a Loki that was from the end of Avengers, and thus, you know, our Loki, for lack of a better way to put it, that we had watched through Thor: The Dark World up through Endgame, or I guess Infinity War, was dead and gone. How they were going to account for that, because Loki at the end of Avengers is very much the vengeful god that wants his throne. And it was interesting to see them do all those flashes and get him more to the Loki that everybody came to love and like in Infinity War. That was a little more, he was still, you know, the god of mischief, but he was more on the side of the angels, I guess is a way to put it. And they did that through that kind of look at his future and what would have happened to him had he not been pulled from the time stream. So
it was like a natural way for them to get him all of his character development that he has up until he dies. Like, you know, I mean, it was a very just like you watch all this stuff, you get up to speed, and then which was also kind of neat because you realize too that he was always that Loki at the end.
Yeah.
And he was just it's like his I forget what his exact line is, but he's like, it's, you know, the weak to
Weak acting
yeah.
strength to make people seem more powerful or something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's like he was always the end game Loki that we knew. It's just what he had to do to create this illusion of control. Rick Metz just subscribed.
That's my dad.
Look at that.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, welcome to the party, Rick.
Awesome.
But yes, I thought that was really good though. And it also works on just a more basic level of like now we're watching the Loki that we've come to love. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, it's like it worked both ways from what I thought. So
Yeah.
but I'm stoked. Like I said, I've heard that not season 2, but episode 2 is even better than episode 1, which is great. I always like to hear that. And then apparently they go more into like how they like with the those little like reset things they put on the ground and then it like resets the thing. They go into like more of what happens with that and like they explain the devices more and explain more of how the TV actually functions.
The charges.
Yes, I'm it'll probably answer a lot of the questions that a lot of people have just in season. Just not I keep saying season 2, but episode 2 alone. So I can't wait. I'm honestly after seeing how good this one was, though, I'm kind of bummed this one's only 6 episodes. Think of all of them. Like why couldn't this one have been the 9-episode one? But good thing to note though too is that it was like a 55 or 57-minute episode, so definitely longer than any other ones. So of the other 2 series. So I hope it keeps that same length because it felt real good for me. It was a really nice length of an episode. Had everything I needed in it. It was great. So
right.
Looking forward to it. The question is though, guys, what did you think about Loki? Were you was it one that you were even looking forward to? Because I know, like I said, when this show first got announced, I was gonna watch it obviously, but it was like it's Loki, whatever. I'm not like super stoked for it. But then I saw that trailer. And I was like, damn, that's the one I want to watch now. And then it did not disappoint, like, at all. So let us know what you guys thought of Loki episode 1 down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here is going to be our Bad Batch. What episode was it today? Episode 5 or 6?
I think it was 7.
7. Damn, it was episode 7. I had it right here. Episode 7. Feels like it's only been like 5 weeks of it. Damn. Either way. Episode 7 of The Bad Batch. We're going to give our quick spoiler thoughts and discussion on it. Then we're going to give our top 5 most anticipated remaining, entertainment events in general for the remainder of the year, rather. But I loved this episode. I thought it was good, mainly just because my boy Rex showed back up. Yep. Always love seeing Rex. Rex has got to be like Dave Filoni must love the Rex character. Like, because he popped off in Clone Wars. He's always there, one of the main characters in Clone Wars. And then he shows up again in Rebels as a main character throughout the whole thing. So spoiler alert for Rebels, I guess, if you haven't watched that. But then it was really, I was kind of bummed, though, like that Rex didn't just stay with him to fill in as Crosshair's replacement.
Yeah, what else has he got going on?
Yeah, I mean, apparently he's like, it's honestly an interesting juxtaposition if you go to Rebels, because when he shows up in Rebels, he's like done fighting. Like he's not fighting the rebellion, he's not fighting the Empire. He's just out on a planet with Gregor and Wolf, and they're just living life. They're just doing their thing. And he had no intention of wanting to ever fight the Empire. Now that changes, like literally the next episode, he just joins the rebellion, and he's there for the rest of the series for the most part. Just with Ezra and everybody.
Right.
So it was weird to see that immediately after Order 66, he is just like, he's still fighting. Like he's still going through his thing and he's fighting. So I'm curious, at what point does Rex decide that he does no longer want to fight and just go live in the woods or I guess in the desert with Gregor and Wolf? You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know if we'll ever see Rex again in the Bad Batch. I don't know how long the show's going to go. And of course, I still don't even know what the show's ultimately about.
Right.
Like, if I had one complaint for the show, because I love the show, honestly, I think it's great. I haven't disliked any episodes. Like, we kind of, I think everyone in the Star Wars community kind of notoriously says that, like, if you're, I know a lot of people don't like Clone Wars, like the series and stuff like that, because they're just not into it. But most people who do like Clone Wars in general, like, unanimously say that season 4 and up is like phenomenal, and that's work that everything before that's kind of like, yeah, hit and miss. And Bad Batch has not been like that for me at all. Like, I think every episode's been strong. I haven't felt like any episode was like not needed. You know, everything's done something for the most part. Like, some have been better than others, but I've liked every episode. I haven't had that same feeling that Clone Wars kind of gives, where, I mean, it's like the first 3 seasons are like, very hit and miss. Like, some episodes you just like, for instance, I just did a rewatch of Clone Wars, and I watched the first episode, and it took me like 3 weeks to want to watch it again because I hated it so much. Like, and then once I finally struggled through those first, 2 seasons, it picks up in season 3. It gets pretty good, and then it gets amazing at season 4 and on. Like, it's an awesome show. So, yeah, I thought this was great. Is there, like, the only thing I'm worried about with this episode, because this episode ultimately is like they get they finally address the implants still being in everybody's heads. That was also, I gotta say, the only thing I thought was stupid about everything was that, like, Tech knows they're there. Tech knows the inhibitor chips are there, and at no point did they want to take them out.
Yeah,
And
like,
it's
he's smart enough to where.
Yeah, he knows they're there, but I know that he says, like, they just assumed that, their altered whatever rendered them useless. Like, I know
Apparently
that they
not,
say
though.
that. I know, that's the thing. That's why Rex was like, as soon as he knew that they had them in there, he's about to pull his fucking gun out. Like, he knows. And that's the thing. Like, they literally saw what happened with all the regs when Order 66 happened. So I just thought it was really stupid the whole time that Tech has known these chips are there and just leave them there. They haven't been a problem yet. Like, I don't know. So I'm glad they finally addressed that they're going to get them out. But I really don't want it to be a long, drawn out process, and where they're just going to keep doing this, because obviously the episode ends with they get Wreckers out, Rex leaves, and then Hunter goes back in to obviously get everyone else's chips out of their heads. But then they had those dudes, those like scrapper dudes who are like running the planet. They see Hunter as soon as Rex walks away. So they're obviously going to get ambushed while they're trying to remove somebody else's chip in the next episode, inevitably leading them to not be able to get the chips out of all of them. And I really don't want the show just to be like a race to getting the chips out of their head until they turn. Like, that's stupid. Like, I don't want that to be the show. I want them to get the chips out of their head and move on, because that kind of goes into like what my only problem with the show is, and that I don't know what the main plot is. Like, are we doing the Empire stuff? Or are we doing the Crosshair thing? Is that gonna, like,
whatever happened to Crosshair?
That's what I'm saying.
It's only been talked about.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know what the show is. So, but I love it so far. I just hope I would just like to know where they're going with it more than anything. Like, a little clear direction of what the main plot is. What do you guys think of the show overall?
I think it's good so far. There's some episodes that are better than others, and there's always something interesting that happens in every episode, though. And I thought it was interesting. Omega just doesn't have an inhibitor chip, but
I don't see why she would ever need one, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point.
I'm actually just, in the end, more curious as to why she's even a thing.
Yeah. She's obviously playing some role, though, and I guess we'll find out what that role is as time goes on.
Yeah, I wonder why the Camoians made her.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Maybe it was an accident.
You don't just accidentally make somebody.
Just like, oh shit, I was trying to make a pizza and I made a clone.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, what? Maybe she's not a clone and she was just an actually grown new person.
Yeah.
And like, that's what makes her like different. I don't know. Did you watch it, John? You're muted.
No, I'm not caught up yet. I'm on episode 4, I think.
Oh, so you're a little behind.
And I've liked it so far. It's just I haven't had time to catch up with it yet, I guess. I'm hope I'm not spoiling anything. I mean, you guys are caught up, so I can't be spoiling anything. I saw something online. Did they reference Cal Kestis at some point?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I saw something online that said this latest episode had some reference about Cal Kestis in it. So I was like, that's intriguing, but apparently that wasn't. See if I can find it.
Nothing that I remember.
Let me look it up.
It was the top search when I started. Star Wars, the Bad Batch sets up Cal Kestis cameo, but will it deliver? I'll throw it over in the Discord real quick.
I got
here.
something pulled up. I don't know if it's the same thing. Led the group to planet Braca. Fans of Respawn Entertainment is a new video game familiar. It's the planet. So
okay.
the planet Braca. Okay, yeah. So it's where when the game starts, that planet that Cal's on is Braca.
Okay. And that's the planet that they go to in this latest episode?
Yeah. That's the one they're on. So yeah, I don't know if that means they're gonna. I mean, I guess it could. Like, is they're gonna get? Well, here's the thing, though. The difference is that in Fallen Order, well, for one, he wouldn't be the right age. He would still be a kid. Because when Order 66 happened, nevertheless, in Braca and Jedi Fallen Order, it's under Imperial control. In Bad Batch, it's controlled by some scrappers. Rex says I forget who he says they are, but like there's people all lurking around these crashed ships, and Rex says yeah, that's X clan, and they control the planet.
But it could be a younger version of him, correct?
Like it could no, because he doesn't get there until after Order 66. And it's under Imperial control when he's there in the game. Right now, it's not under Imperial control. That's what I'm saying.
I guess I'm saying Bad Batch is after Order 66 too, right?
Yeah, but it's like immediately after. It's like during. You know what I mean?
Like it happens in the first.
Yeah, because like right now, the main thing is like Braca, the planet that he's on in Jedi Fallen Order. It's under Imperial control. Like when
you're I understand there. That. I'm saying like what if he was there while the Imperials came over and took over? Like if this is the planet he went to immediately, like Order 66 happens, he hops on a ship to get away, and the first landing spot he goes to is Braca. Like maybe there's a younger version of him there that they run into. I don't know.
It's possible.
It was just an interesting headline, and so I was expecting you guys to talk about it, but then I didn't know because I hadn't watched the episode. I wasn't sure what they were referencing.
No, there could be, because I mean, this article says he worked there for 3 to 5 years at like one of the riggers that are there, because that's what he's doing when you start playing the game. But when if I'm remembering correctly, like he was much younger when Order 66 actually happened. Like he was a kid. He was a kid. So like if he was in the show, even if he was on Braca right now, they wouldn't be able to bring in the guy who plays him.
Yeah, would he be Omega's age though? Yeah. Would it be like
yes,
she could interact with at 100%. Her own age level?
Yeah,
because I thought he's been kind of isolated with these, for lack of a better way to put it, these adults up until this point. So I thought it'd be interesting. But beyond that, the second episode when they try and leave her with the family. Beyond that, she's been kind of isolated from what you guys have said and from what I know. So I kind of thought it would be cool if like a young him and young Cal Kestis and her had some interactions.
Yeah, I mean they could do that because Clone Wars and like these animated shows have been known to like play with stuff. Like I mean, look at Maul for instance. Like all the stuff that happens with Maul wasn't it never elaborated on in its original source material. So it's definitely possible that he does run into the Bad Batch at some point and like maybe hangs with them for a bit when he was a little kid. Like the Dave Filoni Star Wars universe has never been afraid to like throw in some like extra backstory that doesn't necessarily change anything going forward. Like where we meet Cal Kestis in like Jedi Fallen Order, it wouldn't change anything, if he for a short period of time hung out with the Bad Batch. Like,
not a reason in Jedi Fallen Order why they would have needed to reference his interactions
yeah.
with the Bad Batch. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make anything seem like, well, why didn't the Bad Batch show up to help him take out the First Inquisitor or something, like,
Yeah, exactly. Because especially since that would have been like so many years later,
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely possible. I don't know how likely it is, but it'd be weird because especially right now, given Order 66, he'd probably be staying the fuck away from these clones. Like,
Right.
he was like, I don't want any of that. Like, no way. Like, but it'd be kind of cool to see. I still think, if anything, I really want to see like a Cal Kestis and Starkiller show made and cross that shit over. That's what I'm hoping for. It's never gonna happen, but I've said it
But if
since
they
they announced Vader coming back that they could do it.
if they do get Cal Kestis into Bad Batch, then it opens the door for Hot Toys to do a Cal Kestis figure.
True.
We got Jedi Fallen Order 2 coming out though, so I'm hoping they'll
that's
finally
true.
do one for
That's
that.
true.
Like I was
That's true.
surprised they never did one for Fallen Order, given how successful it was. But I was
And they have an entire video game line of figures that they're
Yeah.
doing with like the Batman, the Spider-Man series. So yeah, it
And I
was
would have
surprising they
loved
did.
like a second sister like figure. That would have been awesome. And then they could have made another Vader figure. They love making Vader
Yep.
figures. Like, come on. Like, what the hell? It'd be really cool if they made a new Force Unleashed something. Just like remaster it just so they can make a figure out of it. Like, oh man, I'd get me a Starkiller figure if I could, dude. 100%. 100%. I didn't realize this was only on me for right now. But again, with the Hot Toy stuff too, I was telling you, I think it was off camera. Where are these Rebels figures at? Like,
Yeah.
because they announced Bad Batch figures already, and the show, like, it was like day one of the show. They announced the Bad Batch figures. Or actually, maybe it was before the show because it was during the Star Wars week. I don't know if the show was even out yet for that point. Was
Yeah,
that 7 weeks
the
ago?
show debuted on May the 4th.
Yeah, okay, so that's when they announced the two figures.
Yep.
Yeah, but I would love a whole set of the Rebels crew, man. And then they had seventh sister, fifth brother, the Darth Maul. Like I could have my fourth Darth Maul figure from the Rebel series. Like, come on, and another Vader. They could make another Vader from that. Crazy. Nevertheless, I think the show's great, though. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about Cal Kestis showing up, though. It'd be cool. Cool. I'd like to see like a live action one though, like with the dude, because I feel like since you got the dude, it's just like with Starkiller, like just do it because you have Sam Witwer,
Right?
Like like why would you not at that point? Just make it canon, and you can have Sam Witwer in. Vader shows up in Obi-Wan, then you make your Starkiller show. So Hayden can come back and be Vader and have Starkiller, and then he runs into Cal Kestis, and then that's when, he turns him to the light side. Cal Kestis turns Starkiller to the light side. And then boom, you got your other series where Starkiller and Cal Kestis go try to kill Vader, and then they lose. Done. There's your show. I want rights to that, though. So you can call me, Disney. I'm not giving that one for free, okay? I'm just saying. But guys, question is, what did you think of Bad Batch Season 1, Episode 7? As I was completely off when I thought it was Episode 5 before. I think it's great. I'm hoping the show just continues to knock it out of the park. I just still want them to just give the main plot. Like they're going in so many different directions, and I don't really know what they're trying to focus on. So I hope that gets a little bit ironed out here at some point in time. And then, what do you think about this potential of Cal Kestis showing up as a young Padawan? I think it's possible with the Baraka thing, but I don't know because we don't know how soon he actually got there. In all honesty, like we know he worked there for about 3 to 5 years. He'd be a very young fella, so it's definitely possible, and he would be about Omega's age probably, so it would work out for that bit. So let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So this is going to be our last segment here. And like I said off the top, to kick off season 2 here of H&U, we're going to do our top 5 most anticipated movies, television shows, whatever it may be, anything entertainment related for the remainder of the year that hasn't been released through 2021. We're going to give our little top 5s. Each of us have they're a little bit different top 5, so we're gonna go through those. John's gonna kick us off here. So John, what's gonna be your first top 5 entertainment movie whatevers?
Yeah, this was actually pretty difficult. And it's funny because I sent my preliminary list to you guys. You guys commented how I only had 4 of my top 5 listed, and that's because I'm so wishy-washy. I couldn't commit myself to that 5th spot. So I'll start with the ones I was able to commit to. Number 1, these kind of are in order of I think my excitement level for them is Black Widow. Just the experience of being back in a theater and seeing an MCU movie for the first time since Endgame is just like I literally have goosebumps right now just talking about it. That's how much these movies have meant to me and how much of a fan I am of these movies. Like I just can't. I don't have enough words to express my gratitude and affection for these films, and so to get them back in, and Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, Natasha is one of my favorite characters, and even though we lost her in Endgame, like this is a chance to revisit her world and see where they're going to take the character or the mantle of Black Widow going forward. So that top of my list, beyond anything else. Luckily, it didn't have to compete with WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier or Loki because those have already at least come out or started. So I didn't have to try and fit those in. Because Falcon and Winter Soldier may have given it a run for its money for that number 1 position. Number 2 right now is Spider-Man, No Way Home. It's killing me that it's not till December. I have to wait till the end of the year to get it. But just all the casting announcements or the casting leaks or the rumors around this film, and then like we just talked about with the Loki show and how that's going to expand or break out the multiverse, and if the multiverse actually comes into play, if they pick up on those story elements that they introduced in No Way Home, there was No Way Home, Far From Home. If they pick up on those story elements from Far From Home, with Nick Fury telling Spidey about the multiverse and stuff, just really excited for that film. I'm a little worried I've got myself too hyped up for it and too excited because ultimately it could just be a bait and switch, or they could just not address some of the stuff. It could be a more character-centered film, because at this point it may be Marvel's last Spidey film. We don't know what the deal is with Sony and how Marvel and Sony have worked out the character going forward. So hopefully they do it right, and hopefully it's as kind of epic as I think we're all hoping it is. The third one on my list is actually, it's a con. Like, and as much as I want to put an actual con on there because I love going to cons and being at cons and with people and other fans and stuff, this is a virtual con. This is DC's Fandom. And it was the thing last year during the pandemic when things just sucked all the time, just about, and all the cons were canceled. And, we had the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, try and do an online convention or an online element, and it was very hit or miss, and more often miss than hit, and it just didn't live up to kind of what I had hoped it would be. Along came Fandom just a month later, or maybe not even a month later, in August, and just was exactly what I had hoped San Diego was going to be. It was fun. There were lots of actual reveals, some pretty epic segments, and then just the joy of like seeing other fans interact with it, and just the online community around it get excited about this stuff. And then of course ending it all with that new Batman trailer was just incredible. And I kind of anticipate we'll get something along those lines, be it I don't know what the next big thing from them is. Maybe a Shazam trailer at this one.
Sure.
Black Adam trailer to end this one. Maybe
I bet they end it with another Batman trailer, honestly.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. The next Batman trailer may be coming out when this comes out. So fandom is definitely, and obviously, my love of DC Comics. I'm hoping that they have righted the ship with this merger with Discovery, and that they are going to start rolling now and get some do the catch up work they need on Marvel, and get a whole nother universe of films out there for me to go see. And then my fourth one, we're jumping back into the MCU again, because like I said, I just can't get enough of it, is Shang-Chi. Like, I've loved martial arts films for as long as I can remember, and they have been few and far between, I feel like, over the past 5 to 10 years. I had a ton when I was a younger kid, and then we even had like an era where we had a lot of Jet Li and Jackie Chan films that were excellent. But I feel like it's just a genre that's very overlooked nowadays. And so hopefully this is Marvel, like it's Marvel putting their spin on it, bringing it into the MCU, which I love, but also just doing quality films the way that high bar that they've set for all their stuff. So that's my fourth position. And then for my fifth position, there were so many things that I wanted to put on it. There are comic book series that I absolutely love that I can't wait. My favorite comic book series of the past 5 years has been Tom King's Batman book. And it was kind of unceremoniously canceled, his run was canceled. The book wasn't canceled, but his run was canceled after his City of Bane arc, and it was supposed to extend to issue 100, and they stopped his run at 85 and turned the book over to another writer, but they let him continue his story in his Batman Catwoman book, which is only about 4 issues in, and we've got 8 more to go. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that continues to play out. But the other book that it just came out recently that is just hitting me right in the feels every time I read it is Tom Taylor's Nightwing book. It's my favorite comic book on the market right now. And I can't wait to see how Tom Taylor takes care. Tom Taylor is the same author that has written all of the Injustice series, and he's written all of the Deceased line of books, which are 2 of DC's most popular and best books of the past decade, and he's just continuing to knock it out of the park on this Nightwing book. So that could easily take the 5th spot. Book of Boba Fett, obviously huge Mandalorian fan and what Dave Filoni is building and doing over at Disney. So Book of Boba Fett's high on that list. Hot Toys releases, like, I know it's hard to believe, but like literally a figure could be number 5 on this list because of how long we've been waiting on some of them. I get that in-game Iron Man, that battle damaged in-game Iron Man, where you can actually get him in the snap pose at the end and put him opposite my in-game Thanos figure. Like, just passing by that every day and seeing that figure on the shelf would just be amazing. You also get in-game Thors coming out hopefully later this year. So both of those are high on that list. And then, of course, the MCU isn't done with us. They have lots of other projects. The animated What If series looks phenomenal. I love What If Tales and Elseworlds books if you're in the DC universe. So the What If stuff could be a hidden gem this year. And then obviously we've still got Eternals coming. And I don't think we're getting Hawkeye this year. I think it's next year. But if Hawkeye were to show up this year, Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run is one of my, I'll say, top 10 comic runs of all time. But that's without me actually having a definitive list. So it could be a little higher or lower depending on what else I put in on there. But I love Matt Fraction's run. It looks like they're taking a lot of inspiration from that run for this series. So I can't wait for that series to come out as well. So there's another 7 or 8. Take your pick for what you want to throw in at my number 5 spot.
Yeah, that was the thing when I was like, should I just pull up some question marks for your top 5?
Yeah,
that's what you sent to me. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I was like, I was just looking at movies, and I got a top 16 here with movies alone. Like, just pick one, throw them in. So,
I cheated in that number 5 spot. Yeah, I cheated that number 5 spice. I gave you guys like what 7, 8 different options. So
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, because like I said, I was just looking at just movies alone, and like, no joke, there are 16 just that are still
yeah,
coming out this year that I want to see, and I might be missing some, like, from, like, because I was just looking just adversely on just random lists online of movies that are still yet to be released. The sites I was looking at could have missed a few, like, I don't know, like,
sure.
so but, like, 16, it's crazy. Rick, what are your top 5s here? What are you looking at?
I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. First one's gonna be Suicide Squad, just because I love James Gunn, and I think, from everything we've seen with it so far, it looks like it's gonna be really good. It looks like it's gonna have like that comedic element too that James Gunn is famous for, which I look forward to, and I think all the actors look great, the characters look great. I just think it looks like a fun movie, honestly.
Feel that.
Number 2 would be Venom. Course, Let There Be Carnage. I love Venom. I liked Venom 1. I love Tom Hardy. I love Carnage as a character. So what better movie to bring that into live action than this?
That was
So
almost my number 1.
yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they do it and how they interpret it, because even from that trailer, you don't get to really see anything. You get to see him for like half a second at the end of the trailer.
Yeah. I
So
just
it'll
love
be
Carnage so much, like, I literally I had it on my number 1 until just a couple seconds ago, I bumped it.
yeah. Next one would be Book of Boba Fett. 1, because Boba Fett's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. 2, I had no idea this was even coming out. They just kind of dropped this at the end of The Mandalorian, and it was like, oh my gosh. And
Good point.
yeah, I think it'll be cool to see things from his perspective and see what he does on Tatooine after taking over Jabba's palace, killing Bib Fortuna, all that fun stuff.
Oh, dude, well, not to we didn't cover this because, like, 'cause of our week off here, but this did just happen recently. Did you see that, Ming-Na Wen, who plays, Fennec, she, posted, like, they wrapped on season 1, but, like, they had literally, like, T-shirts and stuff made that said The Book of Boba Fett season 1, like, indicating that
There's going to
there's
be more than
gonna
one.
be a season 2 probably.
Yeah.
Because why
Yeah.
else would they actually put like, they printed this stuff, like, for, like, everyone on the cast got these, like, care packages, and, like, there was, like, a coffee mug and a T-shirt, and they all say, like, S.1. Like,
Yeah.
you would leave that out if there wasn't gonna be a season 2.
No, exactly.
Like, so, like, that's kinda cool, like, because I think a lot of people has expected it to just be kind of a one-off, but
Right.
I'll take more Star Wars, since Star Wars is in a good place right now, so keep doing what works, you
Right.
know? Like, so yeah, not to interrupt, but I thought that was kinda cool.
No, it's cool. What did I have as my third one? There's
I
been
don't
a
know, it's
couple
right
of 'em.
here.
Yeah, Dune.
Oh, but what was your third? Yeah.
Yeah, Dune I just think looks really cool. The original Dune movie was really interesting and neat, and from the trailer and all that, and from just like the story and everything, I just think it looks really cool. It looks very visually appealing too. Like the cinematography and all that sort of stuff just looks really, really cool.
The
So
cast.
yeah, the cast too. And then my last one would just be the Eternals. I don't know anything about the Eternals. I just thought the trailer looked really cool. I think the cast looks pretty cool for that too. And
It's a stat cast.
yeah, it's a stack cast. It just looked like a cool movie. Like,
Definitely.
even as somebody who's like completely blind to that stuff, just seeing that, I was like, damn, that looks cool. Like, that kind of drew me in. So I'd say those
Yeah,
would be.
did we talk about the Eternals trailer?
No, because
I
I
can't
think
remember if we talked. Did it drop in that week we skipped?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm glad Rick's got it on his list, because if I didn't say this, I need to say it. That is one of the most beautiful trailers I've ever seen.
That's exactly
There are
right.
some shots in that trailer. They're just melt your eyeballs. They're so pretty, like amazing.
Yeah.
So the cinematography is going to be out of this world for that. I have a feeling. In
Well, I
addition,
mean,
hopefully the story too. But
she won Director of the Year, man, and Best Picture. The same
Yeah.
director of Nomadland. I'm blanking on her name right now, but you got, like, literally an Academy Award-winning director directing a Marvel movie. Like, it's going, and she finished this before, or she was announced to be making this and was making this before her win too.
oh yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
it's even better, you know what I mean? Because it's not
Right.
like they
It's
went
not
out
they're
and
just
got
jumping
it.
on the coattails.
Yeah, like, so, like, it's, yeah, I got some high hopes for it, because as someone who's not kind of like Rick, really, to some degree. I'm very well versed in the Marvel lore, but not with Eternals. Like most people, really don't know anything about the
I don't know
Eternals.
anything about it.
So it's gonna be interesting to see, like, especially how they wrap it all in with the MCU and everything.
Right.
Like for sure.
Sorry, Rick, I jumped into
it's all good. That's basically all I had to say. So
yeah,
you hit the nail on the head with the beautiful trailer. So
yeah, that was your 5. So we'll go through. I'll go through 2 and recap John's and then Rick's, and then get into mine. So John's was Black Widow. I'm not going to go through your like top 7 for your 5 though.
Sure.
Number 1 was Black Widow. Number 2 was No Way Home. 3 was Fandom, and 4 was Shang-Chi. And we'll just say number 5 was TBD.
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, there's a lot of things were number 5. And then with Rick, he had Suicide Squad, Venom, Book of Boba Fett, Dune, and The Eternals. So then, I didn't even. I had the wrong button clicked.
I was gonna say
we'll roll back through. Suicide Squad, Venom, Boba Fett, Dune, Eternals. There we go. Click that wrong button. So I'll give you mine, and then we'll wrap the show up here. So mine is actually ended up being very similar to Rick's, surprisingly.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, I made mine like prior to Rick making his too, so there was no conversing on it whatsoever, ironically. But here we go with mine. Dune is my number 1. Like, and I said before that I just bumped this for something else because, like I said, I had Venom up here a second ago, and I'll get into that in a minute. But Dune, dude, Denis Villeneuve, and then like the cast on top of it, like Blade Runner 2049 was amazing. Prisoners was amazing. Denis Villeneuve is in a group of directors with your Christopher Nolans, your Steven Spielbergs, just the people who if Denis Villeneuve makes a movie, I'm going to watch the movie kind of thing. You don't watch the movie for the movie subject matter, you watch it for the director. You know, like a Chris Nolan, Steven Spielberg kind of thing. Not all the time though, because I have no intention of watching West Side Story by Steven Spielberg. I just don't like musicals, so I have no intention of watching it. I don't care who directed it. But nevertheless, he is in that vein for me. So I'm definitely going to watch Dune. And I actually really like, I never read the Dune book, but I liked the movie from the 70s. I always watched it when I was a kid, even though it's like, it's not that it's like a violent movie or anything, but it's not really kid friendly because it's just kind of confusing when you're a kid. I just thought it looked cool. And like the sandworms were cool.
True.
So that was pretty much it. But so I'm super stoked for that. So then I bumped that. Venom took the number 2 spot because I realized, you know what? If I had to choose like one movie to see for the rest of the year, I guess it would have to be Dune because of Denis Villeneuve. But Venom is like easily one of my most anticipated movies. Second most for this list, for the sake of this list anyway, because I loved the first Venom movie far more than most people did. I thought it was funny and I liked what they did with everything. Despite there being no Spider-Man in the movie, it worked. So I thought that was really good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Carnage more so than anything. And then number 3 is going to be the Suicide Squad because James Gunn, and the trailer was great. They got fucking Starro in it. Like I'm excited to see what the hell is going to happen with that. And I hope I hope it's good to where James Gunn continues to make these Suicide Squad movies like after he's done with Guardians, because he's doing Guardians 3 after, here soon. And I mean, this had to be good because they made a Peacemaker show that he's making right now for HBO Max. So I'm hoping that I feel like this is going to be a good movie no matter what. So I'm excited for that. And then I have No Way Home on here in my number, what was that, 4th spot? Yeah, it's my number 4 spot. Mainly for the same reasons that John was getting at, because like all the casting announcements that they've had for this, and like the connectivity with this multiverse of madness kind of thing. We have the potential. We have Alfred Molina's Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 is back. There's been rumors that freaking Green Goblin's in the movie. Like what's his name? Like Green Goblin from the first Raimi Spider-Man. Willem Dafoe's Goblin's back. Jamie Foxx's Electro of all people is back for this movie. So I just need to know what the hell's going on with it more so than anything. So that's my number 4. And then for number 5, I put the Eternals as well.
Man, we did have a similar list.
It was a very similar list, Rick. Very similar list. But I mainly want to see Eternals because I'm very curious as to how they're going to rope this in with the MCU, given the power that the Eternals have, and then the deviants, because Thanos was a deviant, but they never really talked about anything like that, and these 20 movies prior. So I don't know how they're going to connect all this stuff, if they even are going to connect all this stuff. So I'm curious because you had like in Guardians of the Galaxy, you had the was it an Eternal that they were in the head on? Is that what they were they calling the you remember the planet Nowhere? It was
Yeah, I know.
was
I
it
can't remember what they classified that
I
as.
can't remember if they classified that
I
as
thought it was a
Eternal or not. A
celestial.
Celestial, yeah, the Celestials, because the Celestials made the Eternals. So I'm wondering what they're
Yeah.
gonna do with the Celestials going forward with this, because like obviously they're innately tied to the Eternals, and they've already name dropped the Celestials because of Nowhere. But then again, that ties in with like the Deviants and Thanos, and I just want to know what the hell they're doing. And I love the dude who played Rob Stark. Can't remember his name right now. I love Kit Harington. He's in it. Like the cast is just incredible. So I'm stoked for that. But like I said, I'm gonna give like 11 honorable mentions because like, dude, there's a ton of movies that are coming out here, and like I'm just gonna go through this list here and I will tell you because there might be pictures for some of these, and that's why I'm just using this website. We obviously have Black Widow. We got that coming out. Space Jam 2, I actually want to see that. So, because I'm a sucker for the first Space Jam movie, so I just
True.
kind of have
Yep.
to see it. And then,
Yep.
I mean, dude, Ryan Coogler wrote this. Like, it's probably decent. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure in the trailer for that Space Jam movie, I thought it would be stupid if they're just gonna throw LeBron James in it and just do it all over again, but it's entirely different. Like, it's all in, like, this weird 3D world, and, like, it reminded me more of, speaking of Steven Spielberg, the, Ready Player One. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
It was like Space
I
Jam
can
with
see
Ready
that.
Player One. And then, Old by,
That does look good.
M. Night, I think that looks awesome, and then I'm curious what they're gonna do with that. Free Guy, that looks
Free
amazing.
Guy looks amazing.
Yeah, I totally wanna watch that. Don't Breathe 2, I loved the first Don't Breathe, I thought it was great, so, like, it was a movie you never thought they would do a sequel to, because like, why would you? But they're doing it, so I really wanna see that as well. I mean, I don't have Candyman on my list, but it is, written by Jordan Peele, so he's been kinda, like been doing pretty good with these kinda horror movies, so it's probably worth watching. Shang-Chi, obviously. And then for anybody who likes The Sopranos, they're making that Many Saints of Newark movie. No Time to Die, like
Yeah. Oh wow, I forgot about that.
Halloween Kills. The
Yeah.
the the most recent Halloween was really good, so like I want to see that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
And then this Last Night in Soho movie is the Edgar Wright movie, like this Antlers movie that was like they dropped a trailer for this forever ago. Like, dude, like forever ago. It's a horror movie with by Guillermo del Toro. Like, I've been wanting to see that for years now. Like, literally. And then you have the Ghostbusters movie for anybody who likes Ghostbusters because it's actually written by Jason Reitman, whose dad wrote the original Ghostbusters. So it's presumably going to be a little bit better than the remake with the ladies squad that they just did with Chris Hemsworth in it and whatnot. And then Top Gun Maverick, I want to see that just because Tom Cruise is literally flying fighter jets in it. Like, why the hell not? Like, it looks good. Like, I actually thought the trailers looked really good. I mentioned West Side Story that I don't care about, but Matrix 4 is coming out this year.
True.
Like,
Yep.
I don't know what to expect from this movie, so I couldn't really put it on my top 5, but, like, The Matrix is one of my all-time favorite movies in general, so it was hard for me not to put it on my top 5, but given the track record that the Wachowskis have had post-Matrix, and even with the sequels to The Matrix, I couldn't in good faith put it in a top 5 because I just don't know what to expect, but I'm gonna have to watch it, obviously. The King's Man, I'm actually excited to see because Ralph Fiennes or Ray Fiennes, whatever you wanna call him, whatever however he likes to pronounce it. It's spelled Ralph, but everyone says Rafe. So that looks great. That was supposed to come out already. The Tomb Raider 2 movie. I don't know if that's even gonna make it this year. What else is there? There's a couple more. Morbius. Oh, that's 2020. No, we're in 2022. Okay, cool. But yeah, so there's a ton of movies, like a ton, that I'm like super stoked to actually see. So, which I was surprised. Like when I was going through this list, I was like, God damn, because that doesn't even include like Book of Boba Fett and any other thing that could be coming out that I'm not even aware of right now. So yeah, it's gonna be it's a pretty big year.
Yeah.
So like COVID may have like messed up all of 2020, but all it did was everything got bumped to 2021. So now we just have this amazingly stacked 2021. Like, so I mean that's kind
Yeah.
of cool. And if I hadn't seen A Quiet Place, that would be on the list. But I already saw A Quiet Place. That movie was awesome. Did you end up seeing it the other day?
I didn't. I was supposed to go with my brother to go see it last night, and he was busy until late, so I just went over and we hung out there for a little bit. But
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I
Absolutely
think we're gonna
phenomenal.
try and get out next week maybe and see it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, totally recommend that if you haven't seen it yet, for sure. But that pretty much wraps up, guys. Yeah, got anything else you want to add? That's our tops, our top fives, and then like my extended top 11 after that.
I think we covered it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Rick, where can everybody find you online, good sir?
Follow me over on Instagram at Sir Rick Metz. I post every now and then on there. Nothing too exciting.
Yeah, nothing too exciting.
Nothing too exciting.
Well, what can you expect?
Yeah, it's me. I mean,
John, where can everybody find you online?
I'm also not too exciting, but I'm over on Instagram and Twitter, Nightwing_K.
All right, you can follow me simply at Sir Rob Bifo here. Do not forget, and it's like all platforms, you can just search that, or it's either at Sir Rob Bifo or Rob Bifo, either way. And then don't forget, you can submit topics and questions to us that we will address on this very show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Every Wednesday, our collectible reviews go live. Well, they're not live, but they go up on the channel every Wednesday. The most recent one I did was the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. That is up on the channel now. And then every Friday we do our live stream. So coming out is there. And then for the time being, that's where our first Loki reviews are going to be. They're going to be done on a live stream every Friday. So if you want to come chat Loki, we'll be doing that every Friday. So normally around like 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry for the West Coast folks out there. So but that'll do it, guys. I don't have anything else. So just be sure to like and subscribe and do all that sorts of fun stuff. But until next time, take care.